Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another just a miscellaneous vinyl update. No music in the background tonight. My daughter's sleeping in the next room, so I don't want to make too much noise. But still wanted to do a vinyl update. It's been a little while since I did one, and I had some stuff to show, so decided to knock it out. So let's just jump into it. First up, we've got Desolation Boulevard from Sweet. And let's see if we can get rid of some of this glare. There we go. That's a little darker, but I guess that's a little bit better. Maybe not. This is an album that I didn't end up liking as much as I thought I would. You know, you got Ballroom Blitz, a couple. I Want to Be Committed. A couple of their hits are on here. But outside of the 3 or 4 songs that I already knew off of this album, I just wasn't really feeling the rest of it. It wasn't bad. It just didn't interest me enough that I would give it more than a couple spins. I got it for a really good price. I only paid $2 or $3 for it, so it was definitely worth picking up. But maybe I'll give it a 3 or 4 months and give it a listen again and see how I feel about it then. Sometimes that changes my opinion. But I just wasn't really feeling this one. Like I said, the hit songs on here I really liked. Outside of that, though, I just thought it was an okay album. Next up, this is one of those that, like I was just saying, I didn't initially like, and it's been about a year since I listened to it, and listening to it again, I really dug it, and I've listened to it 3 or 4 times since then, and that's Misplaced Childhood from Marillion. Ended up finding a really nice copy of this finally. I've had it on CD for quite a while. I think I sent Scott Waters a copy of it on CD. And that may have something to do with it. I actually went back and listened to the CD, and I don't think it sounds near as good on CD as it does on vinyl. So that may have something to do with my feeling for it when I listened to it about a year ago. I am still more a fan of Marillion's first 2 albums over this one, which are, is it Jester? No, it's got the Jester on the cover, and then Fugazi, or Fugazi, however you say it, is the second one. But Misplaced Childhood is really good. Really good neo-prog. I really did enjoy it, and that one will definitely be in the rotation for the time being. This next one, just an absolute classic. I've been looking for a really clean copy of it for a long time. It's got one of my favorite songs, one of my all-time favorite songs on here, and that's War from U2. I think this was the only one that I want. That I was missing. I'm not really a fan of most of what U2 has done, what they did from pretty much 1990 on, but I love all their stuff from the 80s, and actually their most recent album I really dug as well. But my favorite song from them has always been Sunday Bloody Sunday, which is obviously, or as I just mentioned, it's the first song on here, so it's just an absolute classic. Nice to have it on vinyl finally. This next one I got thinking it was something else. Excuse me, my allergies are going nuts today. This is the Leather Nun, Force of Habit. I love that. Force of Habit. That cracks me up. When I bought this, I thought this was the metal band, Leather Nun. And I was kind of surprised to find that I dug this. This is actually a compilation of the band's music. The Leather Nun, this is from '87. They are a goth new wave band. And this was really good, I just saw Leather Nun and jumped on it. I wasn't familiar with this album cover from the band Leather Nun, but not disappointed with what I ended up finding. Good album. These next 2 are from one of my favorite 80s bands. I've ended up finding a couple of 12-inch singles from New Order. The first one being the Blue Monday single. And the B-side for this is Touched by the Hand of God. And then I also found the Round and Round 12-inch single, and the B-side for this one is Best in Marsh. So, and I think I picked those up for like $1.99 a piece. Getting back to the prog, this is an absolutely amazing album. This is actually my first time hearing this one. I just recently bought my first album for this band about 6 months ago, and I really dug it. And I've been looking for other stuff from them, and I just haven't found that much in good condition. So I was really stoked when I ran across this, especially for under $10. But, oh, excuse me. This is a Tau in the Ocean from Nektar. And, oh, I'm sorry, A Tab in the Ocean. And what's cool about this one is this is the first UK pressing. And this is, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but this is their debut album. I've got 2 of their albums now, and like I said, I'm definitely on the lookout for more. I can't believe these guys did not get bigger than they did. I really like Yes. I really like their sound. I like Nektar better, from what I've heard. Now, that's not to say I think Fragile is better than anything from the album. Fragile is better than anything I've heard from Nektar. But as a whole, what I've heard from Nektar, I like a little bit better than Yes. So, take what you will from that. But really killer album. Highly recommend it. Next up, speaking of debut albums, this is a great one. This is the Bob Seger System. Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. This is the reissue from, I think, from the early 80s. I picked this up for $6 in mint condition. I was blown away. Even the reissues, when I run across them, go for really good money. And I mentioned this in my last miscellaneous vinyl update when I showed a couple other Bob Seger albums. If you haven't heard the Bob Seger System stuff, you really need to check it out. Really good mix of blues rock, hard rock, and psych. You'd be really surprised if you were to compare this to anything he did with the Silver Bullet Band, or even his last, maybe his last 2 solo albums that came out around the time of Silver Bullet Band. And as I've mentioned, I like all of his stuff. I'm a fan of his more southern rock sounding Silver Bullet stuff. But man, the Bob Seger System stuff is really, really good, especially this album. Definitely check this one out. Next up, a little bit of jazz. I haven't shown much jazz. I actually do buy jazz. I've talked about it, I think, one time on a video where somebody asked me about an album that changed my view of a genre of music. And I talked about how it was actually the Beastie Boys at a live show doing their jazz funk mix instrumentals that really got me looking at jazz. And that turned me on to stuff like Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins, and which later led me a few years later to Eric Dolphy, who is by far one of my favorite jazz musicians. Actually, this is 12 of his albums on a 5 CD set right here. A number of these I have too. But there is a lot of jazz that I do like. Now, one thing that I've gotten into recently, Dolphy's later stuff is kind of borderline free jazz. I don't really think it's free jazz, but it's pretty close. It would probably fall into that arena, but nothing like what I'm about to show. So I was looking up Eric Dolphy on YouTube, looking for something from him that I hadn't heard before. And I ran across an album called Free Jazz from Ornette Coleman, who just recently died. And that's about as free jazz as it gets. That one's pretty hardcore, pretty hardcore free. I mean, it's called free jazz, but I really dug it. So I sent a message to Aaron, the metal theologian, and I was like, "Hey, what else from Ornette Coleman should I check out?" And he kind of mentioned that that's his most free jazz is kind of his most far out there album. Not far out there is the wrong word to use, but the one that people have the most trouble getting into, I guess, is probably a better way of saying it. And he basically said that if I like that, I'll pretty much like any of his stuff. And one of the albums he mentioned was this one to check out, and I did. And I actually bought this as I was kind of typing it to him. He hadn't responded to me yet when I bought this. It was just coincidental that the next day when he responded to get this album. But this is Change of the Century. This one's on, is it Atlantic? Yeah, it's an Atlantic record. This was was it 59 or 60? I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was 59, but it may have been 60. Regardless, killer jazz album. If you're looking to kind of dip your toes into free jazz, I would recommend checking this album out. It's definitely a free jazz album. But it's not so far out there that you're not going to get it if you're already a jazz fan. This is one of those albums that I think is kind of a borderline. Like I said, it's a good way to dip your toes into free jazz because it's not too rebellious, I guess is the right word, against the hard bop or the bop sound, you know. So killer album though. I've already given this 3 or 4 spins, and actually I think this one ended up being on red vinyl, and it wasn't that I bought it because it was red vinyl. That just happened to be what I ran across. It was completely coincidental. One of the stores I go to has a very small jazz section, and when I say very small, I mean it's usually about an inch or so of jazz, and this was right at the front of it. So I ended up buying that, and I loved it. Next up, let's see, another one that I bought same day, same shop. One of the artists that I did talk about the same time that I was talking about Eric Dolphy in that video about 2 years ago was Hank Mobley. That he was also one of the guys I got into. I like Coltrane. I think Coltrane is probably one of the best ever, best clarinet players ever. But right behind him is Hank Mobley. And I think Hank Mobley is I get more into his music. Coltrane I have to be in the mood for. That's not to say his top 3 or 4 albums aren't amazing. Mobley's just the one I go to the most, and I don't know if it was because I got into him before Coltrane or what, but I've always had a thing for Hank Mobley. This was an album I was familiar with, but I've never owned it. And that's The Turnaround. And this is a Blue Note reissue from 2009. But it's just one of those classic albums. And this is actually a classic album cover. I've always dug this album cover. And then I want to say 95 maybe, when the Beatnuts album first came out. I think it was Intoxicated Demons, the EP. They actually copied this cover. This is red, the little devil tail, and then it said the Beatnuts, and I think right here it said Intoxicated Demons EP or Funky Dwarf, which was one of the songs. I have that one too. I should have pulled it out before I did the video, but just a classic video. I'm sorry, a classic album. Next up, another classic. This is an absolute favorite of mine. I talk about Bowie pretty regularly. I show his stuff all the time. This is one that I've never had on CD, but this is just an amazing album. This is probably my second favorite. I've talked about it before. Ziggy Stardust is by far my favorite Bowie album. And this one is probably number 2, maybe number 3, but it's Heroes. And a lot of people don't really get this album. I hear people complain about this one. I mean, everybody knows the song Heroes. It's one of his more famous songs, and it's a great song. But a lot of people don't get the instrumentals on here. There's a lot of instrumentals on this album, and a lot of it had to do with who was on this album with him. On keyboard and synth, and also guitar, you had Brian Eno, and then on lead guitar you had Robert Fripp. Obviously, Brian Eno is one of the kings of electronic music, ambient music, synthesizer work, and then really one of the pioneers of it. And then Robert Fripp, Eno and Fripp have done a lot together, but Robert Fripp from King Crimson. What's interesting about this one is they were in Germany at the time, and this was one of the 3 Berlin albums, and they were really being influenced by what was going on in Berlin. They were real big fans of Can, Krautrock, really big fans of Kraftwerk, and then also of Neu. And from what I understand, the name of the album, Heroes, is actually an homage to Neu, who had a song called Hero. And actually the song Heroes off the album was initially an acoustic, an instrumental that they later added the lyrics to. But it's pretty interesting, the story behind this. Not only were they in Berlin when they wrote this and really getting into the krautrock scene and those really amazingly influential bands. They wrote this. I think they were like 100 meters from the Berlin Wall when they wrote this, and Bowie's told stories of they seeing the Russian guards on top of the wall or in the towers, staring down into their studio with their binoculars. And basically spying on them as they were recording, and and they actually mentioned the Berlin Wall in the song Heroes, but just a really cool album. And the instrumentals are what threw a lot of people off. A lot of people don't know. Bowie plays keyboards, guitar, sax. There's one where he plays the koto, which is the Japanese instrument that is famous for being played by the geishas. His sax work on here really blew me away on the instrumentals. And it almost had a free jazz feel on 2 of the songs where he was off the tempo for the whole songs. And I read something about that where he mentioned that was just kind of an accident. There was an issue with the headphones he was listening through, and he ended up being off beat because there was a delay in the headphones, and they went back and listened to it, and they just liked the way it sounded, so they left it that way. But I just remember listening to this or just recently, and thinking, that almost has kind of a free jazz feel to it, but just a killer album. Highly recommend checking this one out if you've never listened to it. The next 3 are just straight classics. Rubber Soul. This is the 2009 remasters that was released on vinyl in 2012, the Stereo Masters. I found these for really cheap. I bought this one, and then I bought the Let It Be. And I think I paid I found those for like $15 a piece, so I couldn't pass up on them. I never intended on buying the stereo box set. I would eventually like to buy the mono box set, but the stereo ones, if I find them for the right price, I pick them up. So, and then last but not least is Sticky Fingers from the Rolling Stones. Not a huge Rolling Stones fan. They do have some albums that I like and some songs that I really like. This is one of the albums that I do dig, and this one just got some classics on there. I've actually had that since the reissues came out. I pre-ordered that. I did the Target deal where if you bought the deluxe CD set, it gave you a coupon for a free copy of Sticky Fingers. I, unlike a lot of people, didn't want the one with the zipper on it because I've seen the way it jacks up records around it. So, and I'm not that much of a fan that that I go for that kind of gimmicky stuff. But that's pretty much it, VC. I'm not sure what my next update will be. I haven't bought that much lately. Maybe I'll do another what's spinning video. But that's pretty much it, VC. I hope all is well. Take care and enjoy your week.